Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Once again, I'm featuring 3 new entries from the website urbanlegendsonline.com. I'm still having a blast talking about these entries here because it's a great way to showcase some new ones and feature some that I've talked about in the past. So it's a really nice way of doing a revisit of sorts. So without further ado, these 3 are going to be the ones that I'll feature here. 2 of them I've already kind of mentioned, and then there's another one that's a new one. So you'll see what I mean here in just a moment. But first one has to do with the name Big Liz. Second one has to do with the name Subway Stair. And then finally, the last one, this is going to be one that instantly brings some images for y'all. School bus railroad tracks, one of my earliest videos that I've ever talked about on my channel. So let's go ahead and let's feature these 3 urban legends. And of course, I'll give my thoughts and opinions on each one afterward. So the first one is Big Liz, and here's what it says. Big Liz was a slave girl who lived during the Civil War. Her master used her and his other slaves to deliver supplies to Southern troops. Big Liz managed to tell Union soldiers where the shipments were going, and many deliveries were intercepted by the North. Her master found out about her deception and plotted to murder the girl. He had a great deal of money and didn't want it to be stolen by the Yankees if his area was taken over. So he commanded Big Liz to help him take the money into a nearby swamp to bury it. As Big Liz was smoothing over the dirt, her master struck her with his knife, cutting her head off. He left her there to die and returned to his plantation without any other living soul knowing the location of his fortune. He was killed sometime during the war, and no one ever reclaimed the money that Big Liz buried. If you want to go get the gold for yourself, here is what you need to do. Over the Twansquaking River, there is a small white bridge. Park on the bridge, turn off your car, and then honk your horn 3 times, and then wait. Don't get scared and try to start your car because it won't work. Big Liz will appear holding her head in her hands. If you follow her, she will lead you through the trees and the mud to where the wealth is hidden, but you won't have the nerve to stay with her and then dig up the gold. Then that's it. That's everything associated with this first entry. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. First off, this is the entry that I haven't talked about before in the past. Brand new to me. It's kind of a downer of a story, isn't it, right? First, it has to do with slavery involving the slave girl named Big Liz. I don't know why she was called Big Liz necessarily, but that was the moniker that she had. And so there she was, pretty much trapped in an area there in the South, and she was there with her master. She was the one that was helping deliver supplies over to Southern troops on his behalf, but clearly she thought of ulterior motives, and she would let some of the Union soldiers know about those deliveries, and so they were intercepted, and then that's when her master found out about it afterward. And so this dastardly fellow, whoever he was, decided to trap Big Liz, like take her to an area, make it seem like it was going to be just another nonchalant day of duties, but without her knowing, he killed her right out there, right into some kind of swamp. But before that, apparently she had buried a lot of his money. He was scared witless that these Union soldiers in the North was going to find out what happened to his money, or try to find out where it was. And so he decided to hide it away, but also have Big Liz do all the work, and then just betrayed her, just basically killed her right there, cutting her head off and then burying her who knows where within that swampy area. So if you want to go there to that location, it's called the Twansquaking River. And if you know that area, let me know if there's a small white bridge there. And then you just simply park your car or park on the bridge, turn it off, honk your horn 3 times, and then just wait and wait and wait. Imagine after a certain point, it starts to get really creepy there with everything happening, like the dead silence or maybe some noises coming here or there. But if everything works right, then you're supposed to see this tragic girl, this Big Liz, come about holding her head in her hands. Quite a sight, right? And then she's supposed to lead you over to that treasure. So if somebody wants to try it out, let me know. There's a local legend about that too. Kind of similar. It's over here in the Texas area. I forget what that town is called. It might have been called Comanche or Conroe, Texas, something like that. And if you go there, there's supposed to be a similar bridge where you can honk your horns and then make in this case, a cryptid come out. But here it's supposed to be a slave girl. But otherwise, a tragic story, at least associated with that. And so we'll see. Maybe there's going to be some evidence later on of somebody running into Big Liz. Next one is called Subway Stare, and here's what it says. This is one, though, that I've kind of featured in the past. More on that in a minute. A woman was sitting on the subway late one night, and she noticed that the woman sitting across from her was staring intently at her. She pretended not to notice, but each time she glanced at the woman, the staring continued. At one of the stops, a new passenger got on and sat next to her. After a couple of minutes, he quietly told her he thought she should get off at the next stop. Knowing that the next stop was a busy one, she agreed. And so when the next stop came up, she left the train with the man. The man said to her, "Thank God. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that train. The woman sitting opposite of you was dead, and the two men either side were propping her up." Then that's it. That's everything associated with the subway stairs. So let's talk about that here. Another creepy story, isn't it? This is an urban legend of apparently somebody seeing someone else just staring and staring and staring at them on a subway. And it turns out that looks can be deceiving because she was dead. Whoever they were, whoever these two men that were next to this dead woman were making her seem like she was alive. But obviously there was other things happening. And so it was very wise for this woman, the main character in this urban legend, to then just walk out, but not, thanks, of course, to the fellow who decided when he walked in and saw what was happening, that he wanted to make sure that he would save her. So I thought I talked about something like this in the past, but it was with the bus. Like there was either a bus or a train. And the details are kind of murky, but I remember it was one of those things where it was another person, in this case it was a man, and he noticed that another person was just staring and staring at him. And then what happened was another passenger came on board, sat next to him, and then told him, "Let's get out of here. Like, I highly recommend leaving at the next stop." And then when that happened, they left, and it was because the other guy who walked in and saw what was happening told him. He said, "That person that's staring at you, the bottom part of their body is gone, like a ghost, in other words. Like you can just see the top part, but not the bottom part." And so he realized that there was something else happening. So let me know if that's the same one or a variation of it. I think that's the one that I've mentioned in the past. And then finally, this one I definitely did talk about, school bus railroad tracks. So let's feature that here. One day on their regular route home from school, a school bus full of children was crossing over the railroad tracks on their way to the next stop when something went wrong and the bus stalled, straddling the tracks. As the driver struggled to restart the bus, the train alarm signal started to sound, and the children saw a speeding locomotive coming quickly towards them. By the time the driver opened the doors and evacuated the children, the train had arrived, and the children's screams were drowned out by the screaming whistle and brakes of the deadly train. None of the children on the school bus survived that horrible accident. A few years later, a man was driving down the same road and stalled on the tracks in much the same way as the bus full of children. Again, the driver struggled as the alarm started to sound, the lights began to blink, and the guard bars lowered in front and behind the man's passive car. Just before impact, the driver could feel the train bearing down on him. He ceased to struggle and squeezed his eyes shut, anticipating the explosive collision. And suddenly, it was as if time stood still and everything became quiet. He felt his car somehow move, and as if it were being pushed to safety, guided off the tracks by an unknown force. When he and his car were out of danger from the oncoming train, suddenly sound and time came back to life, and the locomotive barreled past him just inches from the bumper of his vehicle. To this day, if you put your car in neutral on those tracks and sprinkle some baby powder on the back bumper of your car, the children from the bus accident will push your car to safety off of the railroad tracks where they met their ultimate fate. You will see small handprints in the powder of the ghosts of the poor children who died that day. And then there's a variation that says, 2 more users submitted the same story telling us the tracks are in San Antonio, Texas. There is a park in San Antonio, Espada Park, where you can experience this. You don't park your car in the tracks, but a few feet from the tracks. You must have your car turned off but in neutral. Also behind Espada Park is a subdivision. All the streets in that subdivision have the names of all the children who were killed in that accident. It is said that if a child is in your car will be pushed a lot faster. Then finally, the other variation is something called Munger Road. Munger Road is known as a legendary haunted site, drawing visitors to experience supernatural phenomenon at the railroad tracks. According to the legend, a school bus full of children was hit by a train after becoming stuck on the tracks, killing everyone inside. Reportedly, visitors at Munger Road sprinkled baby powder on their car bumpers and then sit on the tracks with their car in neutral. The spirits of the children pushed the car, moving it off the tracks to safety, and their handprints can be seen in the powder. They save people so no one has to suffer like they did again. Then that's it. That's everything associated with the school bus railroad tracks. So let's talk about that here. By far, one of my most popular stories from my earliest set of videos. It had a huge number of views. And it's because the local legend is in San Antonio. I think that's the biggest one. I think there are several places in the whole country that seem to have this story or this urban legend, but the one in San Antonio is the most popular one. It's one of my bucket lists to still go there to this day. Apparently, lots of people go there. I still see stuff online, and when I read articles about it, some of the neighbors aren't really too happy about it, but people still go there to this day and then try to experience it. So yeah, I did talk about it in the past, and it is absolutely a very popular story. The thing though is it's been debunked. And there's been scientific proof associated with it, at least with the one in San Antonio. Measurements were done of the road and the angles, and then there was specific charts that were used, even lasers. I remember a video that was using it, and it all points out to one thing. It looks like the hill is going a certain way, but it's actually not. It looks like it's an optical illusion. In other words, the reason why your car is going in neutral, when you put it in neutral and it looks like it's being pushed uphill, is because you're actually going downhill. That's the crazy part. It doesn't look like it at all, but the angles just create an optical illusion, and in fact your vehicle is going downhill. And so that's essentially what claims it. Plus, there were stories and people doing more research about no indications of a big accident like that happening at the San Antonio location. No indication of a bunch of children being killed. Nothing like that. So it's been debunked, but that still doesn't mean that some of the other areas have that urban legend being true. But it's always fascinating. I still want to go to that site. And apparently it becomes very popular at Halloween, especially like at night. That's when you can go and you experience a lot of people there. But if you go, by the way, another thing too, I've heard that area there is kind of sketch. So if you try to go there at night, just be careful around that location. But otherwise, it's still something on my bucket list to be able to try to experience. But let me know what you guys and gals think about that last urban legend. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.